It's Steph Davis here from flipthiswholesaler.net. It is Sunday evening. I have a reader mail for you. Tried to post one last night, but my computer is giving me grief, so I was not able to. Anyway, so my question tonight, or this evening I should say, comes from, this was actually posted on my Facebook fan page on the wall there by Tiara, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name, and she writes, "Hey Steph, I got a question for your reader mail. I think I want to move to California, so my question is, how do I learn a whole new market? Learning my own market was pretty easy, being that I've lived here all my life, so it was pretty easy to pick up on trends. How exactly do I move to a new market and become successful without the risk of analysis paralysis?" My solution to that, or my recommendation, is to focus on one part of town at a time. Try and find an area that is where investors are very active, where there's a lot of activity going on, a very sought after area for investors. And how do you find that out? You ask. It sounds simple. You could also go to the MLS, or you could do some market research and see where there are a lot of cash sales going on. I know a lot of people don't have access to the MLS, or they may not feel comfortable doing that, or they may not know what they're looking for. So it's a lot easier, I found, and this is exactly what I did, is to just start networking. I always advise people to go to especially if you're brand new, start going to your local real estate meetings, start networking with people, start finding out where the hot spots are in your town. When I was first getting started, and I decided, another investor, actually Bob Norton, I actually saw him speak at a boot camp, and he said when he started having really a lot of success, it was the result of him just focusing in on one little area of Michigan, and he just became an expert at it. And he said that's when he started doing really well. So that's what I started to do, and that's kind of when I started to take off and start doing deals, is when I just focused in on one little area, a zip code or a neighborhood of Tampa. And I just started studying the comps. I started talking to investors that were buying in that area, finding out what kind of deals they were looking for, what numbers they needed to get, what price points that they were buying at in those neighborhoods. But I found out, I picked that neighborhood just by asking around. I would go to the real estate meetings. I would just ask, what's a good area for me to get started in? Where are there a lot of investors buying right now? So that's what I would recommend doing. It's a lot easier if you kind of just break it into chunks and pick one or two neighborhoods or zip codes, as opposed to trying to learn your whole entire market at once. It can be very overwhelming, especially when you're just getting started. So pick a neighborhood, try and pick somewhere where there's a lot of investor activity going on, and then just start studying those comps. Start talking to people who are buying in that neighborhood. Start calling for rent signs. Start driving by. Once you get a list of the comps of the recently purchased properties in that area, you want to be looking at the lowest. You want to be looking at the investor comps, the cash sales. Find out what investors are buying and how much they're paying for them. And then once you get a list of those comps, it's very important, especially when you're new and you don't know the market yet, you need to go out and drive by those comps. And a lot of times when you're just looking at numbers on a piece of paper, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense as to why one property sold for a certain amount and another property right up the street sold for a lot more or a lot less. But a lot of times when you go out and you actually look at the properties, you drive by them, it makes more sense. So it might take you a month, it might take you 2 months, it might take you a couple weeks before you kind of get the hang of, or you get a really good idea of what a deal is in that area. But it makes it a lot easier if you're going into a new market, or if you're just starting out in your own backyard, to just pick one neighborhood and focus in on it, become an expert at it. So Tiara, I hope that answered your question, or Tiara, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. If you have any further questions, please feel free to leave a comment. And anybody else, if you have any questions or need clarification, please leave a comment and I will be happy to answer for you. Guys, have a good rest of your weekend, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.